nice thing is we're going to be able to talk to you at lunch together tomorrow.
Sweet.
I have a room with you in the bar.
Yeah.
And everyone, please don't be shy. Please speak up.
No. What?
Exactly.
Nice.
Perfect.
We'll start with what you can't talk about. What about Wilson Ramos?
You know what? He's an exciting player. We obviously are. Nothing has been formally announced, and we're going to stay pretty vague about that. That's kind of our policy. But as we've said throughout the entire off season, you know, we've kind of been in the market looking for catching, and he's a guy among many that we've discussed, and we like a lot of things that he's capable of doing.
Along those hypothetical lines, what are some of the things that a guy like Wilson Ramos does that you might like?
Well, obviously, you know, he's the offensive profile, the fact that he's gone out, understanding that he had an injury, but prior to that, he'd gone out and caught over 100 games, I think a couple years back to back, and then to find those guys that are capable and have a track record of being able to do that, you put yourself in a special category because this game is continuing to evolve and change, and you just don't see that type of catcher or that many of them that can go out and contribute that much.
Just one more thing on him. If you were to get a guy like that who's a veteran, who can also have a good read on your pitching staff, which is always really important to you guys, right? Good handle.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we were able to get a guy like that, like you said, he's a guy that comes with some history of catching some really good pitchers. We have some good pitchers, so I think we'd be confident that that would be a real positive balance for our club.
Kevin, home runs were up this year a lot, particularly throughout depth of lineups. Does that have any impact on how you manage a game?
Nah, I don't think so, but I agree there were home runs that were up. I think our pitchers probably caught the brunt of it more than what we would like. You know, I think for the most part, the Rays, we consider our ballpark to be a pitcher's ballpark. I don't know if it always played like that this past year. I mean, you look at Chris Archer's season, and you take away 10 home runs, and he basically had the exact season that he had the year before. We were talking about how special he was. He's still very special. Where those 10 home runs came from, I mean, I don't think it's all. Nobody quite has defined, I'm sure, a couple mislocated pitches, but it did trickle out throughout the American League that we saw quite a bit, that there were a lot of what appeared to be fly balls getting out of the ballpark.
But nothing strategically, no impact.
I don't think so. I mean,
no.
no, I think if you're managing to try to avoid the home run and you get caught doing that too many times, it's going to eventually, you know, it's going to burn you. So, look, lineups are built these days where I think most everybody in the lineup is capable of hitting a home run. It's part of the game. So you just kind of follow that along, knowing that it's possible.
You're trying to pick up some wins in the standings, obviously. You know, you talked about you can't just hit the table and get those, you know, the same players get those 25 wins you need. How much harder is it going to be after what Boston did last year?
Well, I mean, you know what? They acquired a really good pitcher. The nice thing about Boston is they've already got a bunch of really good pitchers. So we were, you know, I love the way our guys kind of rose to those challenges throughout the course of the year. I mean, the other left-hander they have that we all know really well is pretty special too. We had some really good games against him. Chris Sale is obviously as talented as anybody in the game, and he's going to present challenges, but it's something that I think our guys will be excited about. It'll just add to, you know, kind of add to the competition in the AL East. So it is what it is. That's how it works.
In an ideal world, what would be a good profile for this outfield bat, DH kind of guy you're looking for?
Well, I think there's a couple different options because mainly with the flexibility of Corey Dickerson and Souza to an extent. You know, we know KK is going to be in center field, and Souza and Corey are going to be primarily, they're going to be out there. They're going to get some DH at bats. Personally, I like the speed factor and a guy that is capable of playing some center field. I mean, we all saw what took place when KK got hurt. He's a special player. We're not going to go find Kevin Kiermaier type defense to fill in if there's an off day here or there or an injury. But have a guy that can come in and kind of hold center field down would be great.
Rays have so many good pitchers and many rumors that one of them might go on trade. But do you imagine that because they probably going to sign Wilson Ramos, that means probably that you don't have to wait too much in the future and you don't have to trade those pitchers? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, as a manager, you don't want to trade any of them because what we've seen the last 2 years, you can never have enough starting pitching. And we do have a talented group, and you know we've got a group of guys that are going to come back. They're going to be hungry to perform like they know they're capable of. That being said, I mean that's what we get calls about. Leading up to the winter meetings, during the winter meetings, everybody wants to talk about our starting pitching, and you know because it's so valuable and that's it's so tough to find. So it's a luxury for us to be able to have that, but I don't want to see any of them go.
Looking at your bullpen for next year, how important is it to be able to build from the top down and having Boxberger, Cal, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, look, what Alex Colomé did last year, we've talked about quite a bit. He put himself in a position, he was successful, he really established himself as having an elite season. We have every anticipation that he's going to come back in and repeat that. Brad Boxberger is a guy that somewhat had a lost year simply due to injuries, and we look forward to kind of him regaining his all-star season the year before, and then even the 2014 season where he was as dominant as anybody. But it'll be nice to have Box come in there, be healthy, not managing injuries and rehabbing. I mean, that takes a toll on a player, especially like when you know he gets hurt in spring training, he rehabs, he comes back, and he gets hurt day one. When he gets reactivated, his whole season was basically rehabbing. That's not a very good way to go about having success. So we're looking for better health for him.
And when you're putting your bullpen together in the spring, obviously you guys usually bring in a lot of the veteran guys, you know, with the minor league deal, the invite. Are you looking more for just strictly talent, or you like to mix that in with different looks?
That's something that we're discussing right now. I mean, obviously the talent plays, but you know, we're predominantly have built our pitching staff, and taking aside the starter is kind of a lot of fly ball pitchers. I think we've seen that the ground ball pitcher can really be effective in the bullpen, especially when you're talking about short spurts to come in and get a big out in a big situation. Saying that, those guys are really tough to come by right now. The market for relievers is it's, you know, there's some really interesting names out there, and I know our guys are doing everything they can to kind of sift through that right now and figure out what's our best fit for our club going forward. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the bullpen. I think we all know that come spring training, that will be one area that it'll be a very, very healthy competition.
Along the line of ground ball pitcher, also you mentioned maybe some higher velocity, try to add some velocity.
Yeah. Look, we talked about this throughout the year. There's no doubt when you ask hitters, there's something to be said for a guy that's warming up and bringing the 96, 97, 8 miles an hour. You know, with power, you want the guy to be able to command the ball. I mean, if you're throwing 98, you got no idea where it's going. That's after it'll real soon get exposed. But that velocity limits, opens maybe your margin for error, and helps you have some success, especially in those leverage situations.
How do you go about setting up that competition in the spring? I mean, because obviously you've got to get in shape for a certain part.
Yep.
Is it just a late spring, decision in most cases?
I think you definitely have to make sure that you don't force the issue to where you risk anybody injury. I mean, nobody's going to make the club or be in competition throwing their first bullpen or the first live B or even their first couple innings during games. The nice thing about this year is we do have the WBC. It's going to lengthen some things out. We are going to have some time to really get some extra looks at some guys. And I think you'd be upfront and honest with them and say, listen, for the first couple weeks here, we want you to get ready. Put yourself in a situation to where you can compete for the last 2-3 weeks of spring.
And during the postseason, the Indians, their bullpen usage got a lot of play. What sort of flew under the radar was how many curveballs they threw against Toronto. I'm particularly against the Cubs. What are your thoughts on attacking with an extreme scouting report? Pitch usage.
Well, I think the scouting report helps, but I also think if you go back and look at some of those pitchers, I mean, that maybe that day or that month, that might have been their best pitch that they had going. So they pitched off the breaking ball. Look, Toronto, we all know, is a very potent lineup, and with the guys today, you gotta give different looks. I give Cleveland credit, and the rest of those pitching staffs in the postseason. It was interesting to watch how they just evolved real quickly and adjusted to some things. But the heavy breaking ball usage, it kind of makes sense. I mean, you watch all year long, you're watching those guys in the middle of Toronto's offense, and they don't miss fastballs, so it makes a little bit of sense.
What was your first reaction yesterday when you saw or heard what Watson did? Was it a little frustration? Was it?
No, it helped our marketing department can now, figure out when to do throwback jersey days. So we're good.
From a baseball standpoint,
Yeah.
as a manager that has to face them as many times as you were when you were first.
It's a challenge, and I think that we always, being in the American League East, I think teams that are in it would say that's the best division in baseball, the most competitive, and I mean it's a lot of back and forth and slug match. He's going to add to that. Boston was a very, very talented team before that acquisition. I think it's more business as usual. It's going to be a good situation because let me tell you, when you go face Chris Sale and you're not in the division with him and you see him once a year, twice a year, it's not that fun. The hope is, we're going to get to see him a little bit more. We're going to have some guys get comfortable and make some adjustments. But when you see him, if you see him in May and then you don't see him again in September, like it has the last couple of years, it becomes very difficult.
I know we talked to you last week, but is there anything new on either Duffy or Sosa?
No, other than they're still progressing really, really well.
You, at the end of last year, you were maybe a little unhappy with how the season finished up.
Yeah.
You see a team like the White Sox kind of admit they're going to do a rebuild. It's very open yesterday in trading Sale. They'll probably do more. With an acquisition like a guy like Ramos, it seems like you guys aren't doing that. Like you're going to try to remain competitive, to try to win more games. Is that encouraging to you?
Oh yeah, I mean definitely is, and I think the luxury. What helps us is our starting pitching. We have a lot of options, and as long as you have those options and that flexibility, you'd like to think, or in theory, you're going to remain competitive, being able to roll out a pretty good starting pitcher every day.
Yeah, and I guess what I was trying to get at was that's got to be important to you. I mean, you've had 2 years where you haven't had a chance to
Look,
get
last year there's no doubt. I was frustrated, probably Ward a little bit too much visibly. Our players were frustrated. We felt coming into last year that we had a better team and should have performed better, and we did not, and that's disappointing. We're kind of clean the slate here this offseason and come into spring training a little bit hungrier, more hungry, and pull some positive. I mentioned a couple times we like the way a lot of the guys finished up, especially on the offensive side. Let's see if that carries over and we can kind of put it all together and get out of the gates strong.
And it's your 3rd year. I'm sure you want to get to the winning side of things.
Yeah, that would help. That would be good. Yeah.
How hard is it looking at last year's team though and not overreacting and just wanting to, trying to figure out what was the good part of these guys and what can be salvaged and what you can go forward and what needs to be improved? How hard is it to figure that out?
I don't really think it's that hard. I mean, if you're kind of picking apart our season last year, KK's injury played a huge role. You have to overcome injuries, there's no doubt about it. When KK went down, for whatever reason, it seemed like our starting pitching kind of all went in a little bit of a funk at one time. You can manage, and a team can manage a pitcher or two going through a little bit of a slump, but when it seemed like 4 or 5 of them kind of hit their roughest patch of the season at the same point, and you didn't have your best defensive player out there, it made it very difficult. Other than that, there were some bright spots, but we know that injuries, every team has them. We got to be able to overcome them. And you know what? Maybe somehow when guys go into their slumps or dry spells, space it out a little bit to where it's not clumped together where the whole staff does it at once.
Is there anything you personally have learned over the last 2 years that haven't gone as planned?
Yeah, I mean, that's another conversation, but yeah, I've learned plenty, and continue to learn. I mean, I think the continuing to have the communication with the players and the balance of what works with some guys and not with others. I mean, I've made mistakes on how I've tried to approach communicating with players and how we've handled things, and as long as you're continuing to learn, you're being honest about it, and doing some right things along the way. But to answer your question, the communication is ever evolving, and that's the thing that you learn, but you also got to continue to learn.
You said you desired consistency a lot last year, where the team was going up and down and not getting a consistent level. And a lot of that had to do with the injuries that the team was battling, always having different people in different positions. Other than staying healthy, what do you think will help improve the consistency moving forward through next season?
Well, I think you look at a team like us. You talk about people moving all around. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna maximize our roster. Some teams are capable of going out and throwing out 9 players and saying, "Here, go play for the bulk of the season at this spot." That's not our style. We're gonna try to maximize our roster. We're gonna play a couple guys and always be looking to see if this guy can help us for X number of games at this position. Think a little bit outside the box. So I don't think that's something that we should, keep in the back of our mind or prevent us from being consistent. It's our job as an organization, it's our job as coaches to get those guys acclimated and comfortable doing that in spring training, to where when they get the opportunity to kind of move around, they feel consistent, and that will in turn kind of lead to our overall consistency.
Any early winter thoughts for you on your batting order for next year?
No. Longo's gonna hit third. No, you know what? I'm ready for this to get over with, so we can start talking a little bit more about that kind of, the in-game management, the prep of the spring training. Those are exciting times. I mean, I understand this is a big part of the business, and our front office, and along with 29 other front offices, are working incredibly hard right now to make the organizations better. But it does get fun when you start talking about your team.
Right, when you get a little bit better picture of who you're batting.
Exactly. Yeah.
As the longer spring, having some guys at WBC, I mean, there'll be a little bit unusual, a little bit of disruption. Do you just have to kind of deal with that part of it?
No, I think we look at it. Look, it's going to be an opportunity. There's some things that we left the season with knowing that we needed to work on. It's going to give us a chance to get a little bit more fundamentally stronger. Really key on some things in spring training that we felt that we can improve upon. Obviously, base running is one, but. And you know what? It's going to help a guy like Matt Duffy that, as excited as we are about him, he's coming in. It's going to allow him much more time to get acclimated around the guys. I mean, to Matt's credit, he handled it really well. We get him, he comes over, he does everything he can to get back in, but I don't think there was ever any true comfort given the short amount of playing time that he had with us. So that'll be great for him.
Eric gave you a compliment yesterday. He was saying, when you were asked about you, he said how hard the team was still playing. And I know you weren't happy at the end.
Yeah.
But did you get some satisfaction of seeing how hard they were still playing at the end?
You know what? I did, and the one play kind of sticks out. We won the last game of the year because Evan Longoria busted it down the line on a strike 3 miss or pass ball by a catcher. And when your best player or one of your best players is playing like that, there's not too much you need to do as a coach or a manager, because he's setting that tone. And I recall Brad Miller, kind of saying in the dugout when it happened, like, all right, that settles it. We all got to bust it down the line. If he's going to do it, we're doing it. But the guys take a lot of pride in performing. None of us were satisfied. None of us were happy, but none of us also felt like there was any shutdown until the last day of the season.
Yeah, and I know we were discussing that some the other day
Bless
about
you.
Longoria in spring, kind of saying I'm not the leader, but he
That's-
really is the leader in the end, and it's more by maybe show me than tell me.
Yeah, and I respect Evan's stance on that, but Evan does a tremendous job in our clubhouse, and I think we continue to see him He doesn't need to get the notoriety for it. It doesn't need to be announced. He can take a guy back in the training room, talk to him privately, and we see that as guys that are around him. We see that quite frequently.
You went out to the Fall League. Who impressed you? When you saw? I mean, you saw Honeywell and some other guys.
Yeah, you know what? I went out when I went to the Fall League. I went at the right time, that's for sure, because all of our players really performed well. Honeywell, I think he threw 5 innings, 1 hit, 5 punch outs. He was outstanding. Justin Williams was really swinging the bat well. Nick Schufo. Probably, the guy that really stuck out was Diego Castillo. You come in knowing that those names, I really didn't or hadn't heard a ton about Diego, and he comes out of the bullpen, he's throwing 98 miles an hour, and nobody's touching him. So it was very exciting to see. A great experience for me to get out there, get around some of the guys. I assume some of them, there's a good chance, will be in camp with us when we announce that, and just to have that relationship already started.
You looking forward to having Chad from the start?
I am, yeah. I think,
should help,
listen,
right?
Chad, I know that it was a very difficult decision when it happened, but that last 3 weeks or month, whatever it was very valuable to our players and to Chad. I mean, for Chad to be able to pick up the phone, which he's done this offseason, and talk to a lot of guys and not have to introduce himself, already got that out of the way. It's a much more comforting phone call, and I know he's already setting up. I mean, Brad Miller's already wanting to take batting practice, so to have that kind of established, I think it'll be very seamless come spring.
Good? Good. Thank you.
Yeah, they all live in Orlando, right?
Yeah.
So Nick Franklin Uber drives them all together.
There you go. No? No. Thanks, guys.
See you in a couple hours.
Yeah. No, I hadn't.
Well, I mean, you came over a couple times. He was a stud.